This is Phillip Kennedy Johnson, writer of Action Comics, Green Lantern War Journal, and you're at Comics Online.
Philip, we could talk about John Stewart, one of my favorite Green Lanterns that you're going to be writing for his own spin-off series, but of course you've been doing the backup for the main Green Lantern Hal Jordan book, so we're excited to jump into the character. What was important for you about taking on John Stewart, and I guess maybe the pillars for the character as you crafted your stories with him?
It's important to me for people to see John Stewart as a more complete character. I want to see his background in the military, which we often see, but I also want to see the version of him that I grew up with, which is as the architect, you know, and the son and the brother, and there's so much more to him. But honestly, if I had to sum him up in one moment, is when he first put on the Green Lantern uniform and he threw his mask off. And he was like, I don't need this. You know, I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to show my face. That, to me, that just represents just almost like the ideal superhero, somebody who just doesn't need the mask. He just wants to do what's right. Yeah, the guy who you know is all about service and serving the thing that's bigger than himself, but also has the architect's mind. There's just so much to John, and I want to just flesh out the character much more than we sometimes get in the context of a team book.
It's also interesting that you've had a couple pages of backup with this book before launching John's solo book. We've gotten a little bit of Another Place, Another Time. Yeah. Can you talk about where that inspiration came from and why you wanted to use that as the narrative through line to tell his story?
There were several reasons. Part of it is that I wanted to draw a lot of contrast between the Hal book and the John book. I knew that Jeremy was going to bring the perfect energy to the Hal book. It just feels like that fighter pilot Hal that we all know and love. Hal, exactly who he ought to be. And I wanted to make the tone of the book in every way just feel super different. I want people to open that book, get two different stories about two different lanterns, and you know, love them both, but have them be super different. So part of that was in the character of John. You know, unlike Hal, Hal is like the dark horse pick that became one of the goats, whereas John was always the obvious choice to be Green Lantern, like the tactician and the warrior and the architect and everything. But I also wanted the whole tone of the adventure to be very different. So we're getting this crazy, huge sci-fi fantasy thing that spins out of the events of Dark Crisis. We see this whole other universe where John is like the ultimate superhero. Like John is kind of the Superman / Paul Muad'Dib of that world, the only legit, you know, superhero. So we see what John is capable of in that world. Taken to the nth degree, what is John capable of? And then we're going to see those kind of cosmic, you know, crazy, overpowered, you know, supernatural threats from space in the context of a story about John and his family on Earth.
So we got a little bit of time with his mom in the first two installments. Can you talk about who's going to be surrounding John for your story and who was important to essentially impact his life on this journey?
Oh man, what can I spoil? So his mom for sure.
Does his mom become a lantern? You can tell me right now. It's okay.
No, not okay. Not a lantern, but she's great. Like we acknowledge her as a civil rights leader back in her day, who is now going through some end-of-life stuff. And so John has to kind of hang it up for a while and do a different kind of service for a while. And there's some conflict about, yeah, but we need you. And he's like, yeah, but I'm needed here more. And there's some push and pull with that. He's also being surrounded. We're going to see him in the context of other lanterns, of course. We're going to see this new threat, the Radiant Dead, the Revenant Queen that we've been building up. Man, we're going to see him play in the same kind of sandbox with other DC characters that I love very much, that people who read my work know I love very much, if that's a hint. So yeah, we'll see him in a different group of characters than we sometimes do.
Can you talk about the art team? You've got a wonderful team that you're working with, but I'd just love to hear maybe your experience when you saw the first pages for the new book.
Man, yeah, I can't say enough good things about Montos. I mean, he's going to be a legit star, and to get to see him really come into his own on this book, like for this to be the book where people really see what he's capable of, is just a huge honor. Huge honor to have him on the book. We get a real sense of realism from his lines, but also when something, when his gigantic, construct that sprang out of John's genius mind appears, it just seamlessly fits. I mean, the horror of the Radiant Dead, the articulated limbs of the crazy constructs that John is capable of, the expressions on the faces, the environments, it's all just virtuoso stuff.
One of the things that I've always appreciated is that there is a Green Lantern for everyone that anyone could put on the ring as long as they have the willpower. I do have my Green Lantern ring. I appreciated the fact that John Stewart took center stage for Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. There's a generation that grew up with John Stewart as the Green Lantern, sure. And aside from the core elements, and obviously Jeff Johns did so much with the Green Lantern mythos, but John did get to essentially lead the team, lead squads, but he hasn't had a solo book in this capacity in a while beyond the various segments over the years. So I guess, can you talk about the impact of making sure that John Stewart is front and center for a generation that grew up to love him?
I want people to really get to know who John is as a character. So if they were to see a Justice League team book again with no art, just dialogue, they would be able to know who's speaking by what they're saying. And I want to really know who John is, but also see him. I don't know. It seems like we always see John in the context of teams, and it's great. I love seeing him interact with some of the heaviest hitters in the DCU. But I thought it was time to show that he is that level of hero just on his own merit, and also introduce new lore to the Green Lantern universe that I think it kind of needs. The Green Lantern part of the DC universe should be the Wild West, in my opinion, where you can just completely go off the rails and do crazy things that go back hundreds of thousands of years or far into the future or galaxies away. There's just endless possibilities, and to me, John is just the perfect vehicle for that.
We're really excited to see what you do with the character beyond the first few issues that we've seen with Hal Jordan Green Lantern. So many Green Lantern books coming out right now that all sound incredible. You guys are just doing some wonderful work with the characters. So as a Green Lantern fan, lifelong Green Lantern fan, I can't wait to see more. So thank you. We've got more DC coverage coming to Comics Online from San Diego Comic-Con. Stay tuned for more.